Hi everyone, this is Business is Personal. Welcome back. I'm here with some amazing guests today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in a second, but first I want to introduce our topic. It came from episode 1. We had this really critical question, how to hire the right people and how to retain the right people. So today we're talking to our HR professionals out there. It's all about hiring and retaining talent. So if you wouldn't mind, please just take 30 seconds and introduce yourselves, Lucy, Andrew, and Mohammed. Where you are and what you're doing.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Lucy DABO, ex-entrepreneur, I suppose. Ran an integrated communications agency for 15 years and now independent consultant.
Hi, my name is Andrew. I'm the co-founder and COO of Seez. I run all the operations of Seez and most of the data management, and then I'm very closely related to all the hiring and sourcing of everything in the company.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Chbib. I guess you call me serial entrepreneur. Done a couple of startups in Europe and in the Middle East, and was between 2004 and 2010 a McKinsey consultant in the Middle East and in Germany.
Excellent. Well, welcome everybody. Okay, so the 2017 Hays report from HR professionals around the region revealed about 60% of HR professionals said the top concerns right now is hiring the right people and retaining the right people. So on the issue of retaining talent, let's start there. Once we actually have somebody good on the team, are there effective non-monetary ways of making sure that they stay on the team? Who wants to take it?
Sure, I can start. For us, because we're a startup, and once we actually retain some good good employees, we have the issue that a lot of them would actually want to get some really good offers from some of the big companies, especially once we've catered them towards becoming experts. And the way we do that is simply by just having a really, really strong culture, and then making sure that everyone that comes in feels that culture from the start, and that the things that are needed, even though you're a startup, are there from the start. So like, when you have your first day at work, your computer should be there. You should be, everyone should say hello to you. We should have a system in place so that everyone feels included, even when it's a startup, because that's the real main thing we have to offer. It's the culture and the community that we offer. We can't give them a big salary, so that's where we do it.
Yeah, psychologically that makes a difference in every relationship. So for your HR professionals out there, powerful first impression. Your induction is incredibly important for retention. Yeah. Awesome. Mohammed?
I couldn't agree more. I think the most important thing for me is when I hire people, I match the current salary they have. We never increase. Why? Because if they jump for money, they will jump for money to somewhere else. That's one. Second thing is we create followership. So the last company was with Tajawal that I created. We scaled from 0 to more than 1,000 people within 3 years. And the core people, I would say the first 150 people, I personally, as the CEO and founder of the business, I probably hired 120 people, interviewed in excess of 1,000. And what we do is we try to excite people about our story, we excite them about our leadership team, about the personalities. And they got offers, trust me, they got offers that are sometimes twice the salary they make today. They came, showed us the offer, said, we don't want more money from you. This is our value in the market. We want to do this because we have fun at what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. I think that cultural piece is extremely important. More and more, the statistics are that your average tenure is now 4 years. If you're a millennial, it's 2.5 years, right? That's your average tenure in a job. That means you're constantly onboarding, constantly offboarding, and you're never not on the job search. It's ridiculous. The same company, Hays, did another study last year, and they revealed that 60% of employees in the Middle East are currently looking for another job. 60%. That means 60% of your staff is currently looking for another job. So that's a powerful statistic, but it's an indication that, like you said, it's not that they're not getting paid enough, it's that they feel they don't belong.
I think that's actually, I echo all your comments, but it's a bigger piece, it's purpose. Which is obviously linked to culture primarily. If the purpose is clear, we know 8% of millennials will stay in a business 5 years or more if they have shared purpose and values. So if the business is clear about the direction they're going and why they're here, then the team will stay to be part of that journey, because we all want to turn up and go to work for a reason and see the outcome.
I like that. Andrew?
Yeah, right now I'm building my thoughts. So if you start, then I'll come back.
I agree with you. I think the vision that you set in the company and you co-create with the team. So what we've done in the beginning, on the early days of the last business, and all of my businesses basically, we take the core people of the team, 20 people in one room, and we say, okay guys, what do you want to stand for? Why are we doing what we're doing?
Yeah.
And like in the beginning, like people are shy and then like, oh, we want to make some money. It's not about the money. Then at the end of the day, it all boils down to a statement that says something around, we want to change the world. We want to change our direct vicinity, or we want to change something bigger. And I think this is what counts. At the end of the day, this is what keeps them together. I also encourage everyone, go out and do interviews.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at other people, other leaders, other companies. Take that, check your value in the market, and then take a decision. Because if they did that, and there are certain instances where they left the company. Actually, I have one case, developer, he got a job offer from Germany. He got poached by Rocket Internet, I think in Germany or any other company. He went there, after 2 months he called, he's like, I want back.
Yeah.
I can't, like your culture is just phenomenal. I want to go back.
Yeah.
And I think this then impacts everyone surrounding this person, and that makes a huge difference in the long run.
Well, it's that tribal sentiment that, and again, more so than ever with millennials, you want to be with your people and you want to feel rewarded by those who are around you. And the purpose is the bigger piece, but financial success of a business is not their primary desire.
Absolutely.
Although the financials are important, it isn't going to keep them in the job.
So for us, for example, it's most of our employees are actually below 30. So we have a lot of millennials in the company. And the way we retain them is by like challenging them a lot. Because if you don't, like the purpose is one thing, but you quickly realize that what you're working on is not saving the world. It's doing something like solving a big problem. But in order to stay like focused and stay like relevant, you have to challenge yourself, and that's what we keep on doing with all our employees. So when they get big offers somewhere else, like we show them that, yeah, you might be getting an offer from this place, but are you sure that that's going to be challenging you? And we encourage them to go there and see, could they actually be challenged by this? Because very, very few places can actually offer you the challenge that you need, especially as a millennial, because like it's not a hunger for the purpose as much as it's a hunger for the challenge and the learning, which is what drives most of our team.
Yeah. Well, I find that the integration of personal and corporate vision is extremely important, and the integration of personal and corporate values. We've touched on both of those subjects, that people join because they're involved in a vision that gives them purpose, not just as a community, but personally. Right? So being there on that, in that particular position, they're convinced that not only, they're contributing to a corporate vision, they're contributing to corporate goals, yes, absolutely. But they wouldn't be sitting there at that desk if it wasn't achieving what they wanted personally in their lives. No matter what it is, they want, like we said, they want a career challenge, they want to care for their kids, they want to provide healthcare for their parents. Whatever their personal vision is, their personal goals are, has to be integrated into the job in order for them to find real purpose and real meaning. Otherwise, they're just they're working for someone else's vision. So the better we can tie people's jobs or their work roles into their personal lives, I think that's, like you said, that's going to bring, like you said, Lucy, that's going to bring that sense of purpose, and that's going to help to retain people. Is that connection of your personal vision with the corporate goals.
So me and my co-founder Tariq actually take one-on-one meetings with all our employees like very often, and we make sure to align their goals with our goals, because we understand that people, like when you bring back together a company, like it's like a football team and everybody has different purposes and different goals they want to go for. We try to our best aligning everyone as long as we can, but eventually somebody will like have something else they need to go do, and then we support them in that. Like we've had people already that has left the company, and then we support them in that. We don't have any bad feelings. We actually help them move on. And that also means that when they tell the story of Seez to other people, they realize, okay, this is not just, it's not a family, because it's not just, we don't just hug with everyone and like bring everyone in. It's a team that works together and works towards a goal. And when it doesn't add up anymore, people go their own way.
I couldn't agree more with that point, Andrew, because actually everyone's so focused on retaining, but we can't hold people hostage.
Exactly.
But embracing a positive departure just is even more sort of PR value for the business. You create an alumni of cheerleaders who are and then they become customers or clients, or they come back. And we had instances with the agency I was running for 15 years. People, like you said, would leave, go to a new role, ring us. It happened a couple of times as well. The culture's disaster. I'm going to be totally unrewarded. I want to come back. The money wasn't everything. And sometimes it happened in a matter of days. But actually, even more so, 5 years later, they were coming back into really senior roles. They'd gone out into the world, increased their skill set, and then were really benefiting us as well as them coming back into the fold. So it's really important to support and recognize that people will leave.
Yeah, of course.
So we talk about retaining a lot and actually letting them go and come back.
Not only that, like I get calls from people that heard from alumni
Yes.
how great our culture is. I literally get calls, hey Mohammed, I want to work for you.
Yeah.
And
So
why?
perfect.
Because people that exited actually got the best treatment, probably a better treatment than on the onboarding phase. which
Yeah.
should
Yes,
not be the case.
but
And then other people hear that and they want to be part of the story.
Yeah. Well, exiting has to become a huge discipline now, as much as onboarding is. So there's the three phases, right? There's onboarding, retention, and then exit. And I think that too few of our organizations, especially here in the UAE, have a real exit strategy for their employees, right? Very few of them have succession planning at all in their organization. But most of them don't take care of that transition out to make sure that the transition out is just as healthy as the transition in. So what do you think are the key elements of a proper exit for a key employee?
I think the first thing is don't make it a money issue.
Yeah.
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Don't negotiate about 2 days of vacation balance or whatever. That's so inhumane. And that's so you don't want to have this discussion when you have taken the emotionally challenging decision of leaving a place that you actually like, right? That's one. The second thing is ask for the motivation. So what people call exit interview, I don't even call it exit interview, I call it feedback. Feedback session. I want to understand why, right? And I want to understand why I didn't see it coming. And not only that, I will reinforce the decision. So when someone said, look, I need to leave you because I need to grow somewhere else, I would say, yeah, that's the right decision probably for you. Let me see how I can help you. And then I would develop ideas on where this person could go.
Yeah.
Do you have an offer? Did you sign already? Are you in the decision-making process? And then I try to assist this person. So I try to move from a boss relationship, employee relationship, to a mentorship, a pure mentorship relationship, and try to be attached to this person in the future.
That's really good.
That's what they remember at the end of the day. Now, everything administrative, if I ever hear that this doesn't work, I freak out in my business. I literally freak out. I'm like, why did you not make it work for the person? Right? The person has the right actually to have a solid, clean exit.
Yeah, and it's also important that this should apply to all stages of your company, and all levels of employees. So right now we're not that big, but we do have some seniority in the company. But regardless of how long you've been there or what kind of job you're doing, we still have the same mentality towards people exiting. It's been very, very few, so I'm not an expert on it, but the one we've had that was like a junior exit, we still took care of her the same way we took care of like the more senior ones if they were gonna leave. So it's more a focus on how to get a good journey out of it and how to actually leave on good terms.
Yeah.
Can I just add one point to that as well? Often leaders seem to take it so personally, and that really echoes both of your points. It's not, the feedback should be used. A lot of the times these exit strategies, and certainly in our situation we were acquired, and then we were acquired by a large multinational and also merged with them. So it was marrying our processes and our sort of culture into a much larger beast, if you like. And what we really recognize there is, for us, the exit interview, or I love your term, Mohammed, much more effective. We should have done that. They took all of that exit feedback as very, very personal and very defensively. And actually, if you can have a relationship where you'll get honest feedback, ideally before they're leaving, because then you could have done something about it for them, but furthermore for everyone else in the business, that's when it really matters. So being less personal about it from a management point of view is key.
That's actually also why we have those like follow-ups. It's not a specific time frame for when we have to have a follow-up meeting with the employees. But like as a leader, one of, at least for me and for my co-founder, one of the main things we keep in focus is understanding the mental health of all of our employees. Like when we see somebody is like, he seems stressed or he seems angry, we don't like get annoyed at them before them, like maybe triggering or something. There might be something going on behind. And those kind of like picking up those small ticks and grabbing them in the early stages, understanding what's going on. Is there something we're doing? Is it something personal? Is it something like inside the company that you haven't really taken care of yet? Like the earlier you can catch those, the better also the exit interview would be, because they won't have that many issues when they actually leave, because they've vented throughout the whole history, and we've learned throughout the whole journey. So that instead of us learning when they leave and then we're like, oh my God, I didn't know this. We know most of it and we're actually working on it already.
One thing that, sorry, Corrie, one thing that I'm very keen on, and I keep telling that, especially my HR people, because they usually here in the region, also beyond, they come with a different mindset. The exit process is not about the company.
Yeah.
It's about the person leaving. So for me, I generally care about every single person of the 1,000+ people that I've hired, and I want to make sure that after they leave me, they don't get to a bad place. I want to find out what their motivation is and what their next destination is, and I want to advise. I want to say, look, I don't see you there. I don't think you should work in this bank because you will die. Right? You've been in a startup and then you're going to an assistant manager innovation lab role in a bank. No. Right? And I want to be very blunt and very honest, and I want them to be honest. So what I also try to make sure is that we have 3-4 people talking to anyone who exits so that we can calibrate actually the feedback. And you will figure out very quickly whether they're very blunt and open or not.
Yeah, no, it's really good feedback. Actually, I love that term, feedback. So HR professionals capture feedback from everybody leaving your organization, look for patterns. If 3 or 4 different people are saying the same thing, then it's systemic and you need to address it. Andrew, not every one of us has AI as one of our employees. And so the rest of us are all dealing with real people and real jobs. And those real people are messy and they come with issues that are maybe not even work related to work, and people are emotional and business is personal. So we want to make sure that when we have people onboarded onto our teams, we're getting the right kinds of people, not just the right kinds of CVs. We don't hire CVs, we hire people. Right? So I usually tell my clients, and when I'm doing my hiring as well, a CV will get you an interview, but only your character will get you a job with me. And I want to know from you guys, what do you look for when you're hiring top talent? Lucy, do you want to start?
Yes, thank you. You commented on the length of time, and I'm just going to, if I can start with that, which I know is probably the wrong way around, but I don't think you can ever take enough time, which is a very personal opinion. But we had, the best talent we hired probably went through 7 or 8 interviews.
That's a long process.
For a small business at the time, I mean, we were only 100 people at the time, it's a really long process. But what we saw from that was the thoroughness and the sort of rigor of which we went through it changed the perception of the candidate, as well as our ability to know that we really were onto a winner. And that's what's so important on both sides. It's a bit like a campaign. If you're going to, advertise a new product, it is very important that your strategy is right, that your positioning is appropriate, that your price point is accurate. That's very much how we approached finding the right talent, because particularly in our business, which was a consultancy, the people were everything. We didn't have, a glass to sell. We literally, it was all about human capital. So making sure they were right and being really thorough with the process on both sides was a key part of it.
Wow, that's really good. Andrew?
Yeah, so one of the main things we make sure of is, of course, we check that they have the technical capabilities, but often we find that the technical capabilities are not the hardest thing to find. It's the mental and cultural fit that they need to fit into this organization. And because we are we're a bunch of strange people put together, because you need to be a little bit crazy to think that you can solve something with AI. So bringing in more people to this, they need to have a specific mindset. They don't need to be logical thinkers, everyone, but everyone needs to have that same identity of who am I and what do I do, and there's space for diversity there as well. It's just you instantly know when they click, and it's a more subjective thing than most other things you do. We test and everything, but in the end, it's the final interview with the managers and me and the Tajawal, our co-founder, that decides actually do they fit in or not. And sometimes we can even have other employees go against what we're saying and say no, we actually believe he is a perfect fit. I know him better than you do. And then we will say, okay, let's give it a try. Let's actually try it out. And we're big with the trial as well when we bring in people. We don't just say you're hired and now you're permanently in. The first onboarding period, we spend a lot of energy on figuring out, do you actually fit in? And if you don't, you can go again. Because it's not going to be good for them and it's not going to be good for us. We don't want people that just work for work. We want people that work because they find some passion in this and love this company. And we can quite quickly figure out if they fit or not. It's not that hard when you actually spend time on knowing people.
Yeah, that's true. Ahmed?
I think there's 3 things that I look at. The first thing that I look for, and it depends on whether you hire more senior or less senior people. The less senior, the more interviews, right? Why? Because then it really becomes about adding value on a technical level. The more senior you become, the more personality relevant discussions happen. So the way I usually do it, for senior hires, I'm the first filter. As the CEO of the business, I run every first interview. And the best ones, my best example is actually our current head of product. A role that we look for months, really. And it was very tough to get here. And then we got someone, a Canadian guy who just moved back here, etc. And I sat with him, we scheduled an hour. I sat with him in a coffee shop over a shisha, I think. And that interview turned out to be a 3-hour conversation.
Wow.
Right? And it is a conversation. It's very casual. You see me sit literally like that. I want people to feel cozy, so they open up, right? When you feel that this person has a potential to be a friend in an environment where you spend probably 12 hours a day together, that's what you need. Skill set, and you figure out very quickly if the IQ is high enough. Right? That's something. If you have IQ and if you have the personality and the potential to be a friendly person in this ecosystem, everything else will follow. That's what I believe.
You've touched on something really important there, is that when we're onboarding someone, when we're hiring somebody, especially in a key position, we're not bringing their skills to our operation. We're bringing that person into our tribe or into our family or into our circle of friendship. We actually want to connect with them because we're going to be spending between a third and half of our lives with that person for however long we're together in the organization. Might be 2 years, might be 10 years, but as long as we're working together, we're going to spend a third of our lives working to achieve that person's personal goals, and they're going to be working to achieve our personal goals, right? Because that's why we're all there. We've all agreed that we want to achieve our personal goals, and we do it by, arranging travel or buying or making it easy for people to buy cars, etc. That's how we do it. So I think it's more important now these days that we find good value fits when we're doing hiring. So one of the questions I commonly ask, especially when I'm hiring a key position, is what are your core values? And you're not allowed to say hardworking or honest. Don't say honest, don't say hardworking. What are your core values? And I think values should be on the offer letter. Because sometimes, every once in a while, I'll see them on a CV, right? They'll show up on a CV, somebody will say, oh, these are my core values, or this is my vision, this is my objective. And I like that because it shows that they have a strategic view of their own life. But I think the values should be on the offer letter as well. What do you think? What are you looking for in terms of values?
That's the first thing I talk about when I meet someone. Literally. We're a values-driven business. Whatever business we build, you can only keep it together against abuse, against external shocks, internal shocks, if you have a set of values that everyone buys into. I firmly believe that. And I think that's something that was instilled in me in my McKinsey time because it's a very values-driven business. Sure. And what we look for is obviously things like integrity. And we all know the values that matter. And if you ask 1,000 people, you will get to the same values in different synonyms probably. And usually it starts with integrity. No one wants to work with liars. No one wants to work with politicians. No one wants, etc. Right? So this is the first thing. The second thing, what I always say as a core value for us is succeed together. So succeed together. So success comes if we work as a team. Success for individuals comes from the team, and success for the team comes from the individual. That's a thinking that you need to have. And the third thing that I always look at is a constant strive for excellence. You don't stop, you don't rest until you become better. If you have these intrinsics in the system, and these are only 3, you could add fourth or fifth value. But I think these are the 3 core things that we look for in whatever environment I build.
Yeah, that's good. Andrew?
Yeah, so one of the main things we focus on, most of what you already said, but then also like the honesty, like being honest to both yourself and
not allowed,
my friend. I know, but it's actually it's the brutal honesty, not just like the honesty and like you have to be honest.
Right.
It's being able to be brutally honest to everyone. Like you can go to our CEO and say something brutally honest to him because he has to take that as feedback. And that's actually something we look for when we ask them. We ask them straight up when we talk with them, what do you think of the app? And then if they say we love it and it's perfect, then we don't hire them because it's not. You shouldn't think that it's perfect. If you think it's perfect, then you can't help us make it better. We expect that they will.
I like that very much. Say it again.
So if you think it's perfect, you can't help us make it better.
That's awesome.
That's our main thing, and that's why the honesty comes in. Because if you can't be honest about what is the product you're looking at and what's wrong with it, every single one on our team right now hates something in our product, and they're working towards making it better. There might not be a straight up solution for how to do that due to many different issues, but we know that that's one of the things we're focusing on. And that's why it might sound very like cheesy to say that honesty and brutal honesty is one of our core values, but it is really what makes the product much better, because people can actually do that.
Yeah, like a restless discontent with the quality of our product or service.
You shouldn't be afraid of telling me or anyone else in the company that we think this thing sucks. Like, and that's how it is. It is just, that's how this reality, and the faster we can realize that this is the reality we're looking at, the faster we can change it.
Yeah, that's good. Lucy, what are the values you're looking for?
I have to say, courage is key. Courage, curiosity. Courage, because as you said, that constant strive for improvement.
Yeah.
Businesses will die if you're not evolving every single day and perfecting the product. And courage to do the right thing, which comes back to purpose. You have to be courageous, you have to be brave enough to not only the purpose of the business to be brave, but then the people in it to have the same bravery to tackle the complex parts.
Yeah, on the same line, one of the values that I'm looking for is a learning posture. I'm looking for someone who's a lifelong learner. So generally speaking, especially in key roles, when I'm reading the CV, if the last piece of certification or training or education you did was 10 years ago, you're probably not going to get an interview, right? If you're not constantly upgrading yourself, because the information changes so fast and there's so much more to learn today than there was yesterday, and so much tomorrow, right? So if you're not constantly in a learning posture and you're not constantly bettering yourself in terms of your learning for your career, then if you're not investing in you, why should I invest in you?
All right, here's my challenge. My challenge is CVs.
In general.
CVs. Now, my hypothesis, if you look at my CV, you would probably say fits or doesn't fit, right? Now, my hypothesis, wherever you put me, I would probably be successful for 2 or 3 years before I get bored with something. Probably, right? If I look at people here specifically in the region, no one teaches you how to build good CVs. That's one. Second, someone with a great personality does not need to put first of all, someone with a great personality and a great mindset will constantly learn and will not put it in a CV. I take the example of my co-founder and CTO. Just left the company with me and we're starting something new together. Now this guy did a bachelor in computer science in Egypt, God knows when, right? In Cairo. After that, he built himself. And probably 3 years ago, he never saw Amazon Web Services, AWS, and then he built the largest system stack in the Middle East for travel on Amazon Web Services, to an extent that it's so automated and so great that it becomes a showcase actually for other people to use it, right? He taught himself. Is it in his CV? I'm the greatest guy for AWS, blah, blah, no. Why? Because A, he doesn't need to. That's one. Second, I think that's secondary. It's not important. It's really not important. What is important is when I meet this person, I will find out whether this is someone with an attitude towards learning and development and growth. Does he take feedback? In a discussion, you will always see someone who pushes back. And I agree with you that you need this blunt, honest feedback. But what I figured when we had this honesty and blunt feedback culture in as one of our, there's certain people that say, I disagree. So we changed it. We made it. We made it obligation to dissent and commit. So if you disagree with something, commit on how to make it better. Say, this is how I will help you make it better. And people that learn actually have this mindset. People who don't learn, they put it on CVs. How many people with certificates did I hire that ended up being bad? But the CV told me it's amazing.
No, that's a fair point. And if we stay on that point, I want to make this practical for our HR professionals out there. Since the CV is not a great reflection of who you are, how can people build more accurate and better communicating CVs? That's one. And then as an HR professional, what should we be looking for on a CV?
So I'm not a big fan of CVs. I think that people should have worked on something outside of their current job that they can show off. Like, you need to have a hobby. If you really love what you're doing, you have a hobby related to it as well. And whenever I talk to headhunters, they're like, what are you looking for? I'm saying, like, I don't care about the CVs, I care about what other projects did they do. For us, it's like, how much open source did they do? Or did they build some kind of cool project while they were doing their PhD or their master's or something like that, that we can actually look at and see, what does this guy really love doing? Because that's where it really matters. The CV doesn't tell you anything. I can make an amazing CV and I could make it look like it's super great, or I can also make a real bad one. most of our core team didn't have a CV when we hired them. We just took them in because we knew they were like amazing people. We've seen their work. We've seen what they did. One of the guys were like, for his university, he worked at the technical university. He built the whole back end for the university, and that's a technical university with top professors, and he built the whole back end for them as a student, like just, that was my hobby. So we knew from the start that he was great, and he didn't need a CV to tell us what he could do, because his reputation already exceeded him. So we didn't have to care about that. And that also makes it really hard to find people outside, because you're looking for extraordinary people and you're basically going to give them nothing for it. But the CV doesn't really help you with that. It has to be other things that you can relate to. It can be people that advise you, say like, this guy is really great, and then you do the whole search process. Or it can be you just finding him online. There's a ton of like ways online now to find people on forums or on different platforms or whatever. Find them there and then talk to them that way. That's much better than a CV, in my opinion.
Lucy?
Creative challenges is kind of the CVs don't work. I completely agree. I think we all know that. Actually, now it's about how do you find them? How do you position yourself to get to them? Because headhunters are struggling more and more. Recruitment consultants more and more. So it's more on the company to come up with creative ways of going to market to attract, because then you don't need the CV. It's about, are they responding to the way you've positioned yourself? Have you managed to find them just as much? Because we can believe that we will build this amazing brand for our business and people will track us down. But actually we can't reach all corners of the planet. So it works both ways. We have to also, the businesses have to create a brand to put out there and a meaningful way of attracting those people.
So is the era of the CV over?
Think about it. If you Google now, job CV 1941, you will find the same format that you find today.
And it still has no value.
It has zero value. You will find someone you would probably not figure out whether, for accounting, specifically for accounting. A CV from 1922 is identical to a CV from 2018. This is bollocks. Right? The world turned. We have AI. We have modern technology. We have just video. Put a video profile on it.
Exactly.
Video profile tells you much more about the character than a stupid CV.
Or a website, like
a website. You own like .me or whatever. Like you know, there's so many things that go beyond the CV.
Yeah, that's right.
But coming back, how do you find talents? I agree with you. Postmodern word employer branding is very important. So the culture needs to speak for itself, and all your employees are your ambassadors. I think this is something you need to grasp. Second thing is, for me as a business owner, I'm pretty sure you did the same when you had the agency. I spent most of my time meeting random people, even without vacancies. I spend, I would say, let's say my week has 60 hours, 30 hours of that I meet people, random people. Why? Because one of them might be an outstanding superhero. And then I want this person before anyone else sees the stupid CV.
It's like curating content. We were talking about that just before. You need to curate a wonderful sort of collection of talent that you may not need today, but you never know when you might need them, or indeed when those roles will come, because as your business evolves and changes, so does your
And it's tough to rely on
network.
HR for that, because they will not have the entrepreneurial vision that you have.
And also, so many of the headhunters we've talked to whenever we're looking for new employees, they all have the same access to it. Like, oh, I'm going to go on LinkedIn and look for them.
I could do
I
that.
could do that.
Probably better, frankly.
Exactly. And then when I tell them like, so have you been looking on Stack Overflow, which is like a forum for all developers, and they're like, what's that? Exactly. And then I'm like, okay, we are done here. Like, if you don't know what that is, how can you hire anybody from me? Like, that's the place for all developers to be. If you don't know that, how can you help me?
That's right. That's right. So there's a challenge too to headhunters and recruiters out there in order to provide a high quality of service in this new environment in a post-CV world. They have to become more industry specific in terms of where they harvest.
I think there's a difference between headhunters and recruiters, and there's a difference between headhunters and recruiters in the rest of the world and the Middle East.
Yeah, for sure.
And I would call them personnel agencies here. They just throw CVs at you without filtering. I think a good headhunter just spends time talking to people, random people, all the time.
Same principle of yours. You've spent half of your
That's
time
what good
talking to
headhunters do. And there's a couple of firms that are known worldwide for being outstanding at really knowing who's there in the market, where they stand, and where they might head to in 2-3 years. They're very long-term thinkers. All these people that don't know Stack Overflow. They optimize for the 12% fee they want to get on the annual salary, and they want to push as many people as possible. And I think this is why we stopped working with anyone.
Yeah, same here. It's really big problem.
I can headhunt much faster and much better on LinkedIn. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But that it does become a bigger challenge for the bigger industries, because I've noticed that we're so talking very much about entrepreneurial businesses and kind of not necessarily small in numbers, but small in geography perhaps, and infrastructure. And for the HR professionals out there who may work for Unilever or a massive multinational, there are significant challenges for them to be able to get at the right talent. You know, if the business is smaller, like you said, Mohammed, like you said, we can go out there, we can meet the people, and we can control the quality and the intake. The bigger the business, the greater the challenge. Not for everyone, but certainly I think some of the HR professionals out there are really facing that challenge because they rely on recruiters.
Yeah, but the bigger need for disruption.
Absolutely.
So
and
if you are a big corporate, get out.
Yeah,
start
doing
and
it.
And the HR managers to be more creative about how they approach it, because those big corporations do need the same talent, if not more.
They need them much more.
Struggling to find them. I spoke to someone the other day. He's been given the CMO role of a big multinational. He applied to that same business 8 times previously.
Wow.
And they never responded to him. And then they proactively came to him at CMO stage. So that tells you, and this is a big multinational.
Why would you talk to them?
Take that job.
Seriously, why would you talk to someone that doesn't respond?
But I suppose what it massively demonstrated, though, was their, as most big businesses struggle with, their internal hiring process is so old-fashioned and stagnant that the talent is presenting itself and it's coming in CV form, which means nothing.
So what form should it come in? That's my next question. Okay, we're in a post-CV era. We're going to talk to millennials about upping their game in terms of finding new positions. We're talking to HR professionals about upping their game in finding talent. What form should that initial handshake come in if it's not a CV?
I would say that it's the outreach that should change, because so many businesses, particularly hiring managers, haven't got rifle shot view of who they want and what the role really is. There is a very sense of a generic, we need an account manager.
Right.
Well, okay. But actually we need to, talking from an agency point of view, who's the brand, what's the industry type, really nail down the values of the personality that you need, the very specific experience that's relevant. Because otherwise you will be inundated. With 12,000 CVs, you don't look at any of them and you feel like there is a dearth of talent in this market. Where actually precision and accuracy of you knowing what you want is as important as how you find, how the people present themselves.
I see 3 areas. One of them is AI. So you have screening. Screening is a disaster. Right? A company that doesn't respond to you is a company you don't want to interact with, period, right? You just don't want to talk to people that don't respond. So AI can play a very, very big role in screening basically profiles. And you can connect the dots, right? You can look at LinkedIn, for example, you can look at Facebook, at Twitter, etc. And then there's a very high likelihood, the probability is probably around 95% that there is a cultural fit. Once you have filtered that out, skill set and cultural fit, and I just came over a project actually started here in Dubai for AI-based screening and recruitment. A very, very cool thing. I can share it with you later. Once you have that, then it's all about getting to know the persons, right? Now, how do you do that? It's very tough for you if you don't have any clue about a business to really be seen. The only way to be seen is to be smart and network around basically this role. So you need to figure out, if you see a role which is account manager in an agency, figure out whether you know anyone close to this agency, close to this role, close to the hiring manager, close to the HR department, and just try to mingle. Network and mingle.
Andrew, last thoughts?
Yeah, so we actually had a story with our latest hire for the iOS lead. He wrote to us on Stack Overflow. It's one of our main sources now, but he wrote to us there, and he wrote like a long story about himself, his life, and why he fitted into our culture and why it was a perfect fit. It was, and when we first saw it, everyone was like, okay, that's really weird. And then we read it, and then suddenly everyone loved it. He actually he took the time to write a whole story about why his life had led him to this place, and it wasn't cheesy, it wasn't it was genuinely, he thought that this was perfect, and you could see he took the time, and he wasn't looking for anything else, because he was freelancing, making a lot of money on that. So he didn't really need to come and work for us, but he just found us and saw that's perfect. And that's the kind of thing, you don't, when you're applying for a job as well, you shouldn't just apply to anything. Of course, if you need a job, find some kind of job that you can just make some money. But if you really want to work for your dream job, like take the time and actually research what does this company do, what challenge are they facing, what's the culture there. Try to connect with some people and get to know them personally before you actually apply for the job, because it's a two-way street. Like the company needs to like them, but they also need to like the company, and otherwise you're wasting each other's time.
Yeah. So maybe the onus is now on the person who wants to be employed to choose the company that they want to be employed in, and then seek that company out, go and woo that company. So if we're in a post-CV era now, we can look at it the way we look at advertising. We're in a kind of a post-advertising era. We're absolutely inundated with content. And the same thing can be said for the hiring processes. We're just inundated with content. Eventually, all of that's going to break down. It's going to come down to handshakes, relationships, and what we call social media networking, right? I make purchasing decisions based on one piece of information I get on social media. I'm going to make a hiring decision based on somebody that I connect with in a network the way that you do it, Mohammed, rather than looking at a CV or browsing on LinkedIn or hiring a recruiter or a headhunter. It's going to be about networks. Eventually, these digital sources are going to lead us to the place where there's so much information, we're going to just ignore all of those 12,000 CVs, and we're going to go to our neighbor whom we have a great relationship with, and we're going to say, hey, would you like to work with me? Because I know you.
And I like you.
I like you. We have shared values. Come and learn the skills. You can come and, I know you're a learning person, so come and learn the skills that are necessary in order to work with me so that we can be together.
No kidding, we've done that.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I have no clue for them. I have a video producer, never done that job.
Yeah.
Was actually an office manager for years.
And I think that's the future
Said,
of
look,
hiring.
your next chance is video producer. Interested?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's teach you. You got the right personality.
Yeah.
And people are competent.
And it's
Humans
working.
are very
It's working.
competent people.
Yeah. And we'll save training for another podcast. I think training and development is the next topic on the list. But I want to say thank you so much, Mohammed, Andrew, and Lucy, for joining me today. This was an excellent quality conversation, very energizing. Thank you so much. Great tips and tricks for our HR professionals out there. Thanks for seeing.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.